This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social, and I'm delighted once again to be joined by Frank Warren. Frank, it's always great to catch up. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you, young man?
I'm all good, thanks. Good to hear you doing well. Obviously, we've come down today for a press conference ahead of the Royal Albert Hall show on Friday night. How excited are you to bring boxing back to the Royal Albert Hall?
Very much so. It's an iconic venue. It's the oldest operating boxing venue in the country. I think they had their first welterweight title there 99 years ago. So it's 99 years, and now 99 years later, we've got a British welterweight title fight there.
You just talked about the atmosphere, because obviously I've never experienced it. How would you compare it to other venues and what you expect on the night?
You've got to have an exciting fight to get an atmosphere, and some of these guys are good ticket sellers and they bring quite a vociferous supporters, and I think that there's a couple of fights there that are going to generate some excitement, so I expect it to be buzzing now. I think we're going to get something good. At its best, it's like a York Hall atmosphere when you've got a real good fight on, but obviously it's a much bigger venue. Great sight lines everywhere. There's not a bad seat in the house. It's a fantastic venue for boxing. And I was going there since I was a kid. I remember the first time I went, I was probably about 14 years of age. So that was 30 years ago. And but there's been some great fights there.
Let's start working our way through the card, and we'll come back to the Yarde fight at the end. And we'll just start off with a British title fight, starting off with Johnny Garton. Just talk about that one with Chris Jenkins.
It's a cracking little fight. I mean, they said themselves, both of them think it's a 50-50 fight. They both come to fight, and I think I'm hoping we get a really good scrap out of it. I'm quite sure we will do. It's a very evenly matched fight. So when Johnny gets involved in fights, doesn't he? He always gets involved in decent fights. So I think we see I think we see a really competitive fight between the two of them.
Johnny's already said that he's achieved more than what he envisaged when he started boxing. If he wins again, where can he go? Where can his career take him?
Just keep moving forward. Onwards and upwards. He's got to come through the fight. If he comes through it, we'll do our best to deliver him opportunities. He deserves it. He's a hard-working guy, and he's done very well. Alan's his manager and trainer's done a great job with him, and he deserves his success. He's worked very hard at it, and he's a really likeable guy. And as is Chris, but he's a lovely guy, and I just hope that it's his night on the night.
Liam Williams versus Joe Mullender as well. Liam seems to be getting into it more in terms of back and forwards over trash talk, and that Joe's trying to keep his cool. What are your thoughts on what we've seen today and how you see the fight going?
I just think the two of them they're contrasting people, aren't they? Well, actually, they're pretty much introvert. They're not loud guys from that perspective. But Joe, what you see is what you get. He comes to fight. His style of fighting is to drag you down into the trenches and have a war with you. Can he do that, William? That's going to be an interesting scenario, and see how that develops. If it does, then it'd be a cracker. Liam's a good boxer. He can punch. He's fought for the world title. He's moved up now to middleweight. He's re-established himself, so he'll be looking to put on a really good display and look good. But Joe, one thing about him, he's got bundles of heart, so he'll come to fight.
Liam's mentioned his ambition before to move back up to world level and fight for another world title. When I interviewed him on the announcement of the Fury deal with ESPN, he said that he was looking at Jaime Munguia. Is that a fight which maybe he'd like to make?
Well, let's get this one out of the way. But if he comes through the fight, whoever comes through, we will move him up and give him opportunities to get the big fights and make some money. That's the name of the game. That's what pro boxing is all about. The winner of that fight, we will get behind. I'm not saying we won't get behind the loser either, but the winner we will do our best to deliver the big fights for him.
Razvan Kajani returns to another one of your cards as well against another up-and-coming heavyweight in Daniel Dubois. Does Daniel need to make a bit of a statement on the back of Nathan's performance against Razvan?
Well, I don't think he'd be focusing on that. I mean, it's his 10th fight. He's only a young man. It's his 10th fight. The guy's got bundles of experience. He went the distance a couple of years ago with Parker, fought Ortiz. They're world-class, world-ranked heavyweights. This is a step up for him. This guy's very, very experienced, and I'm hoping he'll bring the best out of Daniel. This is what Daniel needs. He needs to learn. He needs to be in with his guys. He needs to be keen. What I mean by keen, he's got to be right on the money. He can't take his eye off the ball on here. He's got to go out there and learn from these fights. And I know he's been working very hard with Martin in the gym. They've been really doing, good reports from there. So I'm hoping he'll turn it on and look good on the night.
You mentioned in a press conference that you can see within a year Daniel being up at the top of a division, challenging the leading names. Is that the goal? Is that the aim? Is that achievable in your eyes?
No, I think by the end of the year, I want to keep Nathan winning and I want to keep him winning. Provided they keep winning their fights at the end of the year, I think the public demand will be for those two to fight each other. That's what we want to end the year on. But they've got to win their fights. But that would be a great fight for the fans. You know, they're two young bulls. They both fancy the fight. They both really do fancy that they've got the beating of each other. So let's see what happens.
That is something I was going to ask about. I saw a few tweets going around that you did say that by the end of the year you'd like to make that fight if possible. Is that the goal, or obviously before when we've interviewed you, you've said maybe a couple of years down the line to keep building up their profiles?
You know, end of the year, they hopefully they'll have another 4 or 5 fights under their belt. So the public will know them, which means they'll get more money. We can put it on in a bigger venue, and let's get it on like I did years ago. I mean, I'm putting James DeGale in with George Groves, you know, quite a few years ago. We got that on. It weren't the end of the world for a loser. You know, James went on to win the world title and so forth. So, you know, let's make the fight. But at the end of the year, that'd be a perfect time to make it.
And the main event on the night, Anthony Yarde versus Rematch. Anthony again, he's come up for a little bit of criticism over social media for his opponent. What do you make of it all?
I failed to understand it. You know, the guy's done everything that's been asked of him. You look at the fighters he's been in with; they got good records. The people he's fought, and he's in with another guy who's got a good record, and it'll be a tough fight for him. I think he's the most experienced guy he's fought. He's got to come through it. The fella's fought for the world title, so he comes through this fight. Please God, he comes through the fight and wins it well. Then we may be, the WBO may even call for him to fight for the light heavyweight title, their light heavyweight title against Kovalev.
Is that something that you guys are looking towards in the coming months? Is that maybe the next, or within the next couple of fights you'd like?
Let's see how he looks. I mean, we lost out in the States. He was on the undercard of Tyson's fight out there. The commission out there made a complete dog's dinner of the whole situation. He didn't get his fight on, so that pushed him back. By the time he gets in the ring, he's been out of the ring for nearly 6 months. So he needs to be in there.
Now, a couple of things away from the card, just wanted to get your thoughts on. Boxing Social's Rob Tewart interviewed Shelley Finkel last night and just picked up on a couple of things from the interview. Firstly, he said that he had no idea that ESPN and Tyson were in talks with Bob Arum as well. Did you guys ever include Shelley or let Shelley know during those negotiations about the rematch that the ESPN talks were going on?
No.
Do you think that all that might make it more difficult down the line?
Not really. You know, he's got a broadcaster, they've got a broadcaster. I think the fight will get made. I think it'll get made, and everyone will work hard to make it happen. But it won't be his next fight, because they made it very clear, and I understand where they're coming from. They made it very clear that they want him, ESPN want to give him some exposure in the States before he gets into the big fight. So that's where we're at.
Do you think with that deal Tyson will have to see his career for the foreseeable future over in the States because of timings and everything?
Most of his fights will be in the States now, and that's what he signed a deal. We announced that's what we announced. He'll come back here and fight, but the majority of the fights will be in the States because that's where the investment is coming from.
Who do you think's most likely next for Tyson?
Don't know yet. We're looking at that at the moment.
There were rumours floating around on social media again that Dillian White's about to sign with ESPN. If that happens, is that a first matchup that you'd like to see?
Well, you wouldn't be wanting to put Dillian White on in the States with Tyson Fury. That's a British fight, isn't it? So that's not going to happen next. That won't be happening. I don't think there's any problem down the road fighting Dillian, but that won't happen next.
And I've also seen on social media a few things going on with Billy Joe. First, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Apparently his house was being bombed and all this, and he's been shot in his hand. Do you know where those rumours actually came from?
Some idiots put them out, but it's not true. You know, he's got nothing wrong with his hands. His house hasn't been bombed. He hasn't been shot in the hand. It's just rubbish.
And what is the latest with Billy Joe and his fight with Shefat Isufi? Also, apparently the WBO is
on Monday, and when you get here Monday, you'll find out.
What is the latest in terms of the title? That seems to be what the situation's causing problems over. That it might not be on the line.
When you get here on Monday, you will find out. That's why we're having a press conference on Monday. What's the point of telling you today?
So we get the exclusive, Frank?
You'll get the exclusive on Monday. Be here early.
Frank Warner, I appreciate your time. Thanks for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.